Hi friends, I'm Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome back to our channel Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be talking about the Demigod Files, which I'm not even sure what to call this. I guess we could call it a collection of short stories, but there's also a bunch of
like... I actually felt it was like a workbook.
Well, there's a bunch of fun like activities for kids and like little interviews with some of the characters as well as portraits.
This is another one of those that like this series. I wish I would have discovered it when I was a teenager, but like this Liz was a workbook gal.
Yeah.
Like this would have been right up my alley with stories within it, and then like maps and like characters and interviews and like little like fun games.
Yeah, it was very, very cute. I do confess I mostly skimmed over stuff that wasn't the actual stories.
I did as well, but I lived through it in like my child's
Yes, exactly.
mind.
And because of that, this is going to be a slightly different video. We're going to be talking about each of the different short stories individually and I guess rating them? I don't know if we need to rate them.
I don't know that I could rate it because it was so different.
Let's rank them against each other. Which one we like the best, which one we like the best. So that's how we're going to... This video is going to be a little bit different because I'm not going to talk about the like word search that they had towards the back of the book. Though I did have to stop myself from doing it because I loved word searches as a kid.
Too.
I was looking at it and I went, I haven't looked at one of these in probably like a decade. I loved word searches.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if that's like a really great form of meditation in a way because you're so focused.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyways,
more word searches in 2024.
Yeah. But overall, before we jump into some specifics, how did you enjoy these little vignettes?
It took me a minute to get into them, but once I did, I enjoyed them. I love a like inside look. I love like an epilogue type of a feel, which I feel like a short stories, kind of give you that something you wouldn't get otherwise. So I enjoyed it. I really think once I got to the third one, I was like, oh, I love this.
Sure.
But it took me a minute to warm up.
I surprisingly enjoyed this quite a bit because...
And you're not a short story guy.
I'm not a huge short story guy, but I think either something about the way that the Percy Jackson stories are generally written or just Rick Riordan as an author lends itself to this type of storytelling very well. And I like from the get-go, I thought I was like, oh, this works.
Yeah.
I think it's because like even within the books, you could almost split up each of their little like things that they do into short stories.
Chapter
like a chapter,
each chapter would be a short story.
And so I just thought that everything about it worked immediately for me, and I was really surprised by that because, I've read a few collections of short stories since we started this channel. One I have openly kind of strongly disliked in a video. I think it's hard. I think that authors who are used to writing full-length novels, it's just a very different skill set, and kudos to Rick Riordan for doing it so seamlessly. I
also feel like when you're writing a preteen book, you're not writing super long stories anyway, so the style kind of lends itself a little bit more to that than like an adult novel necessarily.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fun.
But anyway, okay, so I guess we're going to go into some specifics. So if you haven't read these, I would suggest going ahead and doing it. It was really fun.
It was fun, and I feel like they felt pretty plot-driven, like decently important in the world.
I thought so too, except for, I guess I can say this isn't a spoiler. I thought the second one was like, not at all, but it was so great.
I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway. So I guess let's go ahead and get started with the more spoilery section of the video, and I guess we could just go in order. So The Stolen Chariot was the first one, correct? The Clarice story, which I found to be fun to see her again. I did too.
I think half of it was because it was in New York.
Yes.
Like in New York City. It was at Pier 86 where you and I used to work to get on a cruise ship. So that was, I read that like 3 times. I was like, that's Pier 86.
Yeah,
I thought we were right next door. We parked right next door.
Yeah, I thought that I wrote down in my notes like world building. His world building is still always so great. It's so simple and it always makes sense. And having the Intrepid be a temple to Ares is perfect. Of course it is.
Very good.
And but also to what you said, I wrote down as well. Like there's a bit where they're talking about. We took the one down to the to the ferry terminal, and I, as an adult who spent most of his life living in New York, including Staten Island, I was just like, I love this.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
it's
same.
Always going to resonate with me.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree with you.
With like a bit of nostalgia, even though I had never read this story before. So I adored.
Yeah, it was hard for me not to like anything about it because I was so obsessed with the New York City references.
Sure.
I loved it so much.
But yeah, to the story itself, I thought it was really nice to get another look at Clarice, since she was, some depth was added to her character in Battlefield Labyrinth, since we missed her in Titan's Curse, and then, like, her storyline became more relevant, but she was also sidelined, so it was nice to get her a little bit more, and just have her, and not anything too crazy serious either, just something that's kind of self-contained with her own dad.
And it's nice to, brothers. Like, it's similar to the storyline. We got a little bit of, like, humanizing in the last book. Was that the last book or that?
It was,
yeah. It was the last book. Okay. We got a little bit of her her heart in the last story, which is really nice to have. I'm a person who loves a like humanizing a bad character, because I just like fascinating how people work, and got a lot more of that here as well. And I thought that was really sweet in the way that Percy handled that and how they related to each other in this, especially in the end of the story. I thought was really lovely and endearing.
Yeah, I did too. And they're friends. I thought that was cute
really cute.
Thing. I was like,
when she was like, "Did you saw your friends?" He was like, "You were there.
You were there."
I was like, "That's cute.
That's very cute." I really enjoyed the fact that they went to the Staten Island Zoo, because I've been there a few times. It just made me laugh. But I liked the action sequences in this. I thought they were intense. I liked seeing Phobos and Deimos.
Yeah, good question.
They were suitably terrifying, and it was also great, I thought, to get like another look into Clarice's relationship with her dad.
Yeah.
Because we knew it was a callback to Sea of Monsters, which was a while ago at this point. To like how crappy he is to her, and how she's like afraid of him, and he has clearly hit her and like abused her. Not a good father, which that's a common storyline in these books, but he seems especially bad. And active abuse rather than just neglect. And I mean it's not a great thing to see, but seeing her being able to overcome that was really awesome.
And like encouraged by Percy as well. I thought it was good. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the action sequences were fun. There was a lot of like misdirection and like trickery, which was fun to see the way that happened. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun the way that they kind of like really like meta took on fear.
Yes.
So the fact that they were like, he's your phobia and he's always there, and like creeps into your mind. And I was like, whoa, deep.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was good. The theming was good in a short story.
Good. It was very good.
About overcoming your fear with your friends, and they did that.
There you go.
I also liked how, we realized that we had seen the chariot before.
Yes.
Hades' motorcycle. Ares, thank you. Ares' motorcycle.
Similar vibes.
But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this. I thought it was...
it's quick, easy.
It was quick. Yeah, it was. I think it was
like one chapter.
Shortest one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked this overall. It didn't like blow my mind, but I was pleasantly surprised that this was the start, because I didn't really know what to expect. So yeah, pretty good start, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then the next was the Bronze Dragon.
That was fun.
I loved this short story. This was
I
loved it so much. It wasn't even that. It was just like, and I think like, I don't know. It was just so fun. It was so fun. It was so romantic. It was just like it was great. I had it like. Joy was like jumping off the pages.
I felt like this one was the best. Like, we had like a beginning, a middle, and an adventure like tied up in a bow.
Yes,
like this was probably the best like full arcing story out of the three of them, and it was very, very fun. This one did really well. Like, I really liked the visualization with words. I don't know how exactly to explain what I'm saying, but I feel like the explanation of like the anthill and like the smells and the things and the dragon and like the way that we got into the details of all of that. Like, I felt like I had the exact perfect vision of what everything was and what it looked like. It felt very well thought out.
Yeah. I think that it, like, the vibe was unbelievable. It was just like a fun summer adventure.
Yeah.
It literally felt like you're with your friends at a summer camp doing something ridiculous. And I've done sleepaway camps and stuff in the summer, and it was just so great. I really loved every single second of it. And we got more looks at Beckendorf and Selena, who are characters that we never really got to spend too much time with. They're great. Beckendorf asks her out at the end after giving Percy advice on how to do it.
Literally
and he's so lame at it.
He stumbles into it, accidentally happens, and it's so delightful.
Annabeth, of course, asks Percy out.
Of course she does, because she's my girl. Yeah. That's exactly how she's got to do it.
Everything about it was so good. Like, Selena being a child of Aphrodite and not, they're not known
not following,
for being...
the stereotype.
Well, but also, they're not known for being really violent. And very, martial, as it were, like a lot of the other demigods are. And as soon as Beckendorf gets absolutely wrecked by that ant, which I did think was also very funny, she's leading the charge into the anthill, which is great because we have also seen, her mother at times, and when she runs into Percy, and she seems totally normal, but then she's really terrifying when it's something that has to do with love, and it makes sense. And it's just, I just thought it was so good. I couldn't get enough.
That specifically was a fun metaphor of love is chaos, and also love is blinding entirely. Of she has that tunnel vision of this person, as the second something's wrong with them, it's there is nothing else in my world beyond making sure this person that I care about is okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun. It's also, I had a feeling when I see it, I did not go to sleepaway camp, but I desperately wanted to go to sleepaway camp as a young girl, because I thought that's where you got to go and kiss boys. And this very much was exactly what I had dreamed of happening, of going and meeting a boy and him asking me to see fireworks. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, we didn't have fireworks, but there was some sort of thing that you would
you could ask,
that's a date night thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't what it was, but that's and so it was so great. It was just the most fun I've had reading in actually quite a long time. I think it also is partially because the stuff I'm reading on my own in my free time is pretty heavy and dark, and this was just boundless joy. It was just so fun.
Well, and I also think it was fun because we had this serious fight, and then at the end to find that it was all a trick.
Well,
basically,
even if it wasn't,
it was very much
it doesn't matter if it was or not. But
that
the way
made it more lighthearted.
Yeah, and the fact that the entire thing was framed around we're gonna play capture the flag tonight, and it's gonna be dope.
Yeah,
and then it turns into, oh no, these ants.
And,
oh my gosh, there's a bronze dragon.
And at the end, it's
nailed it. I just thought it was so awesome.
I thought it was cute. I really liked it.
I adored it. But yeah, I have already said that I love it, and so I could just keep gushing, or we could move on.
Also, I have one thing to say is I am shocked that they're 13, 14 at this point?
Well, Beckendorf was 8,
No,
17.
I'm talking Percy and Annabeth.
Yeah, I think so.
Percy and Annabeth have kissed at this point.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about it ever again. When you are that age, maybe this is just, maybe not everyone, I don't know, I was decently boy crazy, but if someone had kissed me, I would have never stopped thinking about it.
It is a short story, and there were other things going on.
Yeah, and then we didn't even talk about it in the book.
Yeah,
after it happened, we didn't even talk about it
because
after it happened.
Because of all the Luke stuff, babe.
That's fair, but I don't believe realistically that a teenager wouldn't make that a big deal.
They might in the next full book. You don't know that they're not gonna.
I'm shocked that it didn't happen immediately after, because that's a big deal.
She thought he was dead for weeks.
Correct.
And then immediately after that, we're talking about another book. I'm putting. Yeah,
but we also didn't talk about it in this book.
It's a short story that has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, but there's also kind of are we dating? Are we gonna go on? But
that's why she asked him out.
It wasn't enough for me.
Okay.
Not to be a believable teenager, I will say.
Okay.
I did love that Annabeth asked Percy out. I thought that ranged true to me.
Yeah, it was great. So the last story was The Sword of Hades. How did you like that one?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it felt like an epic adventure, and it felt very important to the plot.
It did. Yes, this was the one that felt that had the most weight and stakes, and was very interesting coming off and was also serious.
Yeah,
it was pretty serious.
Not as lighthearted as the last one.
Well, and it was interesting because coming off the last one, which was so lighthearted and had no real stakes, which was great. Again, I loved that. Yeah, it was just a really big kind of whiplash, but it was great. I mean, seeing the kids of the big three together was very cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
And I'm still ever impressed
my favorite
with Nico.
emo 12-year-old.
He's just coming out and he's like, yeah, whatever, I got a sword. Yeah, I'm just gonna like talk to ghosts and like kill him.
It also feels like he's been 12 forever.
He did, but he also feels like he's like a 68-year-old 12-year-old.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's great. And it was nice to see Thalia again.
Yeah, I enjoy her vibes.
Yeah, and seeing her like as a huntress and how she's kind of like come into that identity as her own was really enjoyable. But you know, I'm always down for a good underworld romp, and we got to meet Persephone, who is another new.
I love Persephone. I'm always
goddess
fascinated by Persephone mythology. I don't know why.
So is everyone. But yeah, I really liked this. It feels like it will have large repercussions.
Yeah, it feels like it's like we needed to.
Because for starters, Hades is essentially building the equivalent of like a nuke.
Yeah.
So there's that, and also like. Seems like
and like raising the dead and doing this.
Well, that's his thing. That's
but it feels like there's like a new weapon of power coming into play. It feels like
if you're making a weapon that can then essentially give someone else your power, which is raising the dead. That feels like a bad idea.
Well, but then we also find out he didn't.
It wasn't his idea, which I actually liked that twist at the end.
Sassy Persephone taking matters into her own hands.
Yes. Yeah, I liked that a lot. It was interesting getting like a little bit of Nico's perspective on his stepmother and his dad.
That was interesting.
Yeah,
too.
And how they don't like each other, and she turned him into a dandelion, which made me laugh. Yeah, it was interesting. This one the whole thing was very like serious, and the stakes were very high. Ethan Nakamura making a comeback.
I didn't expect him to be like important.
He did show up. It felt like kind of randomly at the end of the last book, but it felt earned because of who he's the child of Nemesis.
Sure.
It makes sense. And so seeing him again, I was actually kind of happy about. Because
quite frankly
don't remember if he's in the 5th book that much, and so I was like, it's nice to see him come back because I want the character to exist more
to
and
have
be
a
around.
purpose,
Because Luke has got a lot of stuff going on, and Ethan just seems to have appeared and is now the only other like really named bad demigod.
Yeah, I do think it took me a minute to be like, okay, for this guy but I was remembering in the last book when he was like. I'm a child of Nemesis. This is like kind of the choice I have to make, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yes.
But then I kind of forgot that going into this book. I'm like, who's this guy who's just evil? He's just a bad guy. Like where I was looking for motivation, and then I kind of was like, oh yeah, this kid.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Another thing I really liked about this, I wrote down in my notes. I was like, "Who said learning can't be fun?" There's something I really enjoy about Rick Riordan in the full-length books that he'll drop these crazy facts about a historically accurate Civil War submarine or all these different stories about Greek mythology you've never heard before. And in the full-length books, it's kind of like, oh, cool, that's like a little thing that just popped up. It happened a lot, and this was a short story, and so it was very noticeable, and I was still absolutely here for it. I was like, this is great.
I always love, too, when I'm like, oh, yeah, that one. When I'm like, obviously these stories this is another fictional version of a myth that has been passed down, and there's so many that, have different stories that we've all heard in different places of our lives, and I often love in these texts when I'm like, oh, get that guy. Yeah. Oh, the guy who has to push the boulder up.
Yes, and that was one of them. I mean, the Sisyphus one, I was like, oh, cool, okay, this is him pushing his boulder up, but that's fun.
And he's so crabby.
And I was like, I know this, but then there was the river Leaf, I think it was, where that makes you. It's not like the river Styx. It makes you forget all your memories, and it's for souls who will be reborn. The Titan Iapetus, or however you say her name.
I didn't know that at all.
And Melanoi, however you say her name. And I was just like, this is great. Goddess. Like, look at how much info dumping has to go on in this tiny short story. And I thought it was great. Yeah. I mean, I still really, really enjoyed it, which I mean is part of why I love the series so much, is because I do love Greek mythology, and I think it's fascinating. But yeah, there were like so many characters, like so many new characters introduced. And they covered a lot of ground, and I mean, I think this was the longest one for sure.
Yeah, this one felt very, for lack of a better word, epic to me.
Yes, absolutely.
That I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I didn't realize I was ready for it after the fun.
Yes, it was
jaunt
it was
we had
tonal
had.
whiplash for
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
But it was good.
But I liked it. I was very, very much ready for it. It was good.
And I mean, I loved Bob.
Oh my god.
I was like, that's
That was
such a
cute.
2000s thing.
Yeah,
I was like,
truly-
everyone thought Bob was the funniest name.
Yeah, they
Which
did.
it is. It's a funny name. But
Bob.
Bob. But yeah, I liked that whole thing a lot. You know, there were great action sequences. Them dealing with Sisyphus and Thalia like talking about how she had pushed the boulder up, and then like her perspective on it and how she kind of understands part of his curse.
The motivation
was really
of it. Yeah.
I really like that a lot. And the thing that really stood out to me the most about the short story, though, and this is appropriate because they're literally in the underworld, and this seems to happen anytime Nico shows up and they have some sort of like dealing with death or introspectiveness, but both Thalia and Nico kind of being stunned by the ghosts of their mothers, which is very understandable. And then Percy having this conversation with Melinoe or however you say it, about, you know, where are your ghosts? And he says, I don't have any because I don't have any regrets. I've, you know, accepted that they've moved on. And I was like,
good for
dang,
you,
man.
12-year-old.
I was just like, this is
I was like, I'm 33 and I got a lot of ghosts.
It was crazy because I was like, this is a short story written for, you know, middle grade readers. And the theme was essentially like success or moving forward through the acceptance of those you've lost and the acceptance that you have lost them. And it's just, I was stunned completely, frankly. I was like, wow, this is not where I expected this short story to go. But I thought it was great.
I loved it. No, I liked that little like twist. It took me a minute because I was like, oh my god, Thalia's mom. Like I was very distracted by her like with a wine glass in a robe and like disheveled hair. I was like, wow, what an image. Like what an image. I was like, is that me? But yeah, I think that was interesting. I was like, I had the thought of like, wow, good for you, Percy.
Yeah.
Didn't have any ghosts. That's awesome.
Very mature.
Yeah, very mature. I felt like one of the books.
It did.
Very much to me.
Yeah, it did. It definitely felt like, yeah, it felt like they shortened a whole book and really like cut away everything else.
They're
and
like,
they're like,
this is
the
the
main
last
adventure.
chapter, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it. No, I enjoyed it a lot. I had a great time.
Great. So, of the three, like, how would you rank the three in terms of your enjoyment?
I would
your
honestly, I would rank them in reverse order.
Would you?
Yeah, the last one, the Underworld, the Camp Half-Blood, and then I don't know that I'm getting the wrong names.
Sure.
I don't have
That's okay. It doesn't matter.
And then the one with Clarice.
Sure. Okay, I would do the Bronze Dragon
the
one for sure. I loved it so much. Then I would do Sword of Hades, and then I would do Stolen Chariot. I think they were all great, though.
I agree.
I had a great time with this,
Yeah.
honestly.
And like
really
a lickety split of a read, but
Mhm.
nice to like have a little teaser in between.
Yeah, to just like take a second. Also because the main plot of this series is it can get heavy, and we know we're heading into the final installment in the original Percy Jackson series, so we know that a lot is going to happen, and it's going to be, you know, full of some heavier themes and stuff. So it was nice to kind of get some lighter stuff for a second that didn't like the fate of the world wasn't necessarily at stake in what was happening. It was just fun.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
I had fun.
Well, those are our thoughts on the 3 short stories in the Demigod Files. What did you think? What is your favorite of these short stories? Did you read them? Also,
hope so, if you watched this video.
I hope so if you watched this video. But yeah, what did you think of the short stories? Let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to discuss them with you. And if you want to see our videos talking about the rest of the Percy Jackson books, you can find a link to the playlist in the description down below, as well as above, I think, my head, maybe hers. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and
we'll see you on our next adventure.